he's getting closer and closer to being at the point where he's done. What is up? It's your boy Johnny SHREVE, IFBB Pro, Mr. Tell Like It Is. Welcome back to another episode of Straight Talk with SHREVE. Today, guys, I want to go over the post that C-Bum put out just recently, and he's sharing his thoughts about basically continuing to compete. Basically kind of telling us, how he feels. And it's very vulnerable and it's very transparent. It's a great, post to react to, because I can definitely resonate in terms of like understanding, when the conversation comes up, when is enough enough? When is enough enough? When do we hang it up? So let me read this for you guys and give you an understanding of what we're talking about. You probably already read it, but I'm going to go ahead and give it to you guys. So this has been one of the most challenging beginnings of prep I've gone through, but it's far from the first time I've been tested. I've practiced enough to see it's an opportunity to be grateful for what I've been through in the past, as I am now more confident in my ability to rise above the occasion. It's an opportunity to put my awareness on how beautiful life is as a whole, so I don't get stuck focusing on what's going wrong. I don't want to pretend like it's all optimism. I can be pretty hard on myself and spend days feeling pretty discouraged. I still spend time stressing about challenges when they arise, but that time is decreasing along with the shame of having those feelings at all. I still have times I wish they never happened, but in the end, when I've gone through all the ups and downs, the times where I'm motivated and the times I want to quit, I'll be able to look back and know I allowed myself to feel those negative emotions, but I never submitted to them. That, regardless of what happened, I woke up the next day and got back to work. There are a few things more rewarding than that. But it's also not as simple as, quote unquote, never quitting. There will be a time where the difficult but right choice will be to hang it up. Sometimes it's easier to stay stuck in things making us miserable because they're comfortably familiar, or maybe we've attached our identity to them. This is when quitting is the courageous decision, to step into the unknown. Whether my heart or my body isn't in it anymore, I'm going to have to trust myself to make the right decision. That time may be soon, it may be far. I honestly don't know. All I know is that is not right now. So when I'm looking at this and thinking about him in this process, and he's, in prep right now, getting ready for possibly his 5th time winning, the Mr. Olympia Classic Physique division. And he's mentioned his, autoimmune disorder before. We all know about the health risks that occur or that lie within his, possible future. So the question is, when I look at this, what do I see? What am I hearing? And for me, I can look at this as and I can relate to where I'm at in my career because I recently retired from bodybuilding. And I can tell you, when I started bodybuilding, the second I got my pro card, I immediately acknowledged that I would not put IFBB Pro in front of my name. I didn't want people to associate myself as being my identity. I am Jonathan SHREVE or JONNI SHREVE, and I am a professional bodybuilder. That's what I do. That's not who I am. And sometimes most of the time, when people decide to, get into this sport or any sport, regardless of whatever they're involved with, they attach themselves to that. Their identity solely is engraved in that thing that they are getting themselves into. And there's a transition period of every athlete's life that is a very, very hard part of their life. And that is understanding or knowing when to move on. Because when you attach yourself so much to that particular thing, you don't know how to move on because you think that you're detaching yourself from what makes that you. And that thing isn't necessarily what makes you, it's what you've done. And that's where I think that Chris is at the point in his career. For me, when it was retiring, and I can tell you right now, I attempted to compete. When I didn't make it to the stage and went through that health scare and, decided to hang it up and come off everything and whatnot, I still had this very, I had this taste in my back of my mouth, like this itch that I still need to scratch. It was a little itch that was like, I know I have some gas left, but I want to stop, but I kind of don't. And I'm like, and it just sits there, and you're kind of like, and you're debating whether or not you want to continue without it. And at that point in time, I was completely fine with moving on, but I still had that little part of me that was like, we got some unfinished business to do. And then when I had the opportunity to compete at the Master Olympia, I was like, perfect. This is a great opportunity for me, that here's how I want to write my ending. My goal is to place top 5 or whatever. Basically, I want to be able to put together a physique that would make me compete and be competitive. So I would place top 5, and wherever the judges put me, so be it. But I was going there to compete, to win. And I want to do my routine. And whatever happened after placing top 5 and doing my routine, I was going to be completely fine with. And you can see when my name was called, when I got, top 5, I was completely fine with it. I was at the point in my life that I was completely okay with moving on. I felt it during prep. Prep was great. It wasn't seamless. It was definitely difficult, like every other prep is. It's challenging, but it really did make me rethink the things that I actually want to do in my life. Do I want to continue to prep? The difference between this prep and other preps was I was prepping without doing anything. I was prepping gear free. Yes, guys, like I say, I have to say this a gazillion times. I am not natural. I can't claim natural because I have done stuff before. But currently, and since October of 2021, I have been steroid free. I have not been on TRT, nothing, blah, 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 I haven't. So the difference between this is going through that prep, I was able to still think about what I actually want to do, because regardless of being natural or not, or regardless of competing enhanced or not, you're still going through the difficulties of prep, the sacrifice, the time, the exhaustion, all those things you're still going through. I had enough time to think, this is the right decision I'm making. I'm putting my all into this prep. I'm going to do my absolute best. But when this is done, I am done. I'm completely fine with doing this, with letting go of this sport. And here I am, and I'm there. The thing for Chris is, and we're all thinking the same thing. We're all like, and a lot of us are going to say in the comments, and for sure, like even on his post, it's like, you've already won 4. You've already solidified yourself as the best of the best. You've already, put yourself up there with the greats. You are etched in history forever. You will be in the Hall of Fame. For us watching, for the fans that are watching him, like myself, who've known him personally before, we are all like, you don't need to do anything else. You really don't. There's that part of this entire, in the grand scheme of things, is we understand, as looking from the outside in, we can't look and see what Chris is doing in his life. We don't know exactly how Chris actually feels other than the post that he showed us. But we do know, as viewers and as, subscribers to him or fans, we are all thinking, there's nothing else for you to prove. And there's always that elephant in the room as well, too, when it comes to this entire sport. It's the health part of it. Getting out in time, getting out before there's actually, before something actually bad happens. And if you can get out of this sport before something happens, you're lucky. But for some people, they haven't been that lucky. For some people, they've passed doing this sport, doing what they love to do. But then we have to always look at it and ask ourselves the question, and we're always asking Chris that question too, is what else do you need to do? Is it worth it? Is it worth it? Is this 5th title worth all of what this post is saying? Because to me, reading this is like him speaking from his heart and being transparent about how he feels, letting us in. And I think that's very admirable and courageous, because it takes a lot to be able to say those things and then take all the scrutiny from people like myself or whoever else is going to be, making stories about this or talking about it. And being able to say exactly how you feel is very, very brave. But to me, looking at this, and this is the first time we've heard Chris come at this prep this way. He's already put out a statement like this, saying that he's been through some issues, ups and downs. Mentally, he's, struggling with certain things. He's battling through, the choices or tightrope walking, whether or not he wants to actually do this or not. And, he's been able to go through this and battle through and come out on the other end. And that's always been the story since he's been competing. We've seen, that's why Chris is so motivated, because we've seen his preps and all the things he's been going through all of his preps. And we've been able to see him go through some very difficult times and come out on top. Not even just on top, but like on the top of the top. When it comes to athletes, and it's a very hard thing for us to do. And you know, it was like the only reason why I continued to, the only reason why I even got into bodybuilding is because as a professional, I didn't get to become a professional football player. That was my goal. That was my goal from when I was a little kid. I wanted to be a professional football player, and I played 18 years of football, from minor league all the way to collegiate football, and didn't make it to where I wanted to make it. And at that point, I wasn't ready to let go. I had no choice but to not be able to play football anymore because my time was up. I couldn't play any more college ball, and the draft just passed me on. That was it. And then I was like, I'm not done. I need to fill that void. I got into bodybuilding because I wanted to fill my competitive void. I didn't get into bodybuilding because I need an identity. I didn't get into bodybuilding because I didn't feel, you know, like I was a part of anything, or, you know, I felt bullied or what. It was a purely, I want to get into the sport because I'm competitive and I'm not done being competitive, and I need a place to be competitive. And if there's a way that I can be a professional competitive athlete, that's what I'm going to pursue. And I did. And bodybuilding was that platform, was that vehicle, and I got to my place, and I went through all the things I had to go through in terms of being an athlete, going through the ups and downs, struggles, health scares, blah, 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 all those things. And it came to a point where you have to be able to ask yourself the question, when's enough's enough? And know when to say enough is enough. And I think that's the hardest part that Chris is going through right now, is that he's battling himself in that competitive person inside him that wants to continue to collect the highest level of, you know, of championship within our sport. He wants to be Mr. Olympia again because he's good enough. Guys, trust me, I know how he feels. I can only just assume how he feels because of how I feel. Not just because I feel, because of how people respond to me saying I'm retired. My athlete and my friend this morning was like, you know, I was agreeing with the people on, you know, with the commentators. I think you have a lot left in you. You know, I was talking to ours, Kyle, and she's like, never say never. You know, you still have a lot left in you. You can still be really good at this. You can still be great. And I know that. I would 100% understand that, and I know that. But for me, looking at my life and looking at where I want to go and the things that I want to achieve, there's more things outside the sport that I want to achieve, because when I started this was not, I did not attach my identity to the sport. And he mentions that. He mentions the identity part about the identity aspect about, you know, why it might be hard for him to let this thing go. And he's talking about the mental struggles he has to, or the mental battles he has to go through when he's, you know, juggling, you know, feeling the shame, you know, feeling the feelings of shame and trying not to shame himself for feeling like, you know, things are hard. And that's part of the process. And that is the difficulties of this is knowing that, you know, this doesn't make you. We like Chris Bumstead because of how he's been able to show himself to us of what kind of competitor he is. And that's what's motivating. And I guess for me, it's like, and I guess I'll have to agree with most people, or I think most people will say the same thing, is like, what do you have to prove, Chris? What more do you have to prove? For us, like, if for me, I'm gonna speak for myself. If you're like, man, I'm done. I'm done. It's like, let's look at the facts, okay? Chris winning the highest, you know, level, you know, winning the highest, the best show in our league, pays him way less. And I know people are like, it's not about the money. Listen, I get it. Relax. But when it comes down to it, it is, because he has things he needs to buy, support, earn. You have to earn a living. No one's doing this because they're just doing it out of the goodness of their heart. They're doing this, they're in this sport because they believe somehow bodybuilding is going to give them an opportunity to be able to either, you know, make money, put them in a position to network to make money, or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. People do understand that winning bodybuilding shows might not bring you all the dollars in the world, but it'll definitely give you opportunity to be able to network or make connections to be able to, you know, continue doing the thing you love, whether it's being a coach, you know, selling products, or, you know, whatever it is. We don't just do this just out of the goodness of our heart. We are doing this as a career. And most of us are trying to do this because they believe that this is going to help them financially at some way, shape, or form. But the fact is, when we're looking at it, and it, you know, it's out in the open there, Chris winning shows is almost like a pay cut for him. Chris winning $50,000 for the Olympia title is peanuts compared to what he might get paid from YouTube, or what he might get from his supplement company, or what he might get from any endeavor that he is involved with right now. At this point, Chris does not need bodybuilding. To be quite honest, bodybuilding needs Chris more than Chris needs bodybuilding. So when I'm looking at this and reading this post, I'm thinking, like most of us, it's like, what more do you need to do? What more do you need to prove? There's nothing else you need to prove, Chris, other than just, you know, there's nothing more to prove. There's literally nothing more to prove. I think that seeing this post for me is telling me that Chris is very, very close to calling it a career. And it is admirable. It is very, very admirable to know when to make that decision. Because when you're at a place where Chris is, that's hard. Because he knows how good he is. He said it. He understands how good he is. All athletes, if you look at the best athletes in the world, the characteristics of a amazing athlete, of a great athlete, Chris has all of them. Chris can go through the ups and downs, recognize those things, and get better. Chris can get through all those ups and downs because he knows how good he is. Chris understands all of the difficulties of the process, and he could just duck and dodge those things and keep moving forward, and understand and know that he can feel for those things. He can acknowledge that he is vulnerable, that those things do disrupt his mental, but he is at the point where he can battle through those things. So the more and more that you start thinking about these things in terms of your career in bodybuilding, it just tells me he's getting closer and closer to being at the point where he's done. So to kind of wrap this thing up, I would say that a good message that Chris is saying indirectly is that there is courage and strength knowing when to quit. And I shouldn't say when to quit. I say more so knowing when to hang it up, knowing when to walk away. And that's in anything in our life. Knowing when to walk away from a business, when to walk away from a relationship, when to walk away from a situation that you might be completely comfortable with, and that might be the only thing kind of keep you in that situation. It is very admirable to know when enough is enough. And I think that's the takeaway from this message, is that in all things we do, we have to know when enough is enough. Because if we keep flirting with that and pushing it back further and further, we put ourselves in harm's way. We could put ourselves in a situation that leaves us in a place where we're thinking, man, I should have just quit when I had a chance. So, we're gonna watch Chris finish this prep. I don't think at all Chris is gonna go into this prep and then eventually quit. He's already in it. He's committed. He's an athlete. He's gonna see this thing through. But for me, I think that this is the last time we're gonna see Chris compete. And I think we can all agree that we'd be completely fine with that. And it's not like he needs our permission. It doesn't need our validation either. It's gonna be his decision only. But like I said, we all are good with him just winning 4 and moving on. There's more to his life. There's more to his life that he can do, that he doesn't need bodybuilding to do that. He does not need this stage anymore. So Chris, if you ever watch this video, I'm just speaking for myself. Thank you for an absolutely amazing career. Crush the rest of this prep. I can't wait to see what you bring. I'm sure it's gonna be better than it was last time. You've been able to do that consistently. And when your time is up, and it's up for you, and you know that it's time for you to hang it up, all of us are looking at you as fans, and we're agreeing with you, and we got your back, and we support your decision 100%. But guys, again, you have to know in your life when enough is enough, and know when the right time is to walk away. Anyway, guys, hope you guys enjoyed the video. For more videos like this, let me know in the comment section below. And make sure you guys grab my ebook, The Final Diet, is out right now in the link in the description below. And guys, until next time, make sure you binge watch my videos. And you guys know how it is. Iron sharpens iron. Progressive overload your life. In the meantime, keep dream chasing. Peace.